First question is about latest development about these laws that could bring start of the reform of the pension system of Serbia. What can you share with us when you expect to pass these laws, and what do you expect from that in light of this arrangement with IMF?
Well, as far as the laws are concerned, they were already sent to Parliament, and that was a condition under our program. And now we know that the law on amending the law on pension and disability insurance is now in Parliament. It is probably going to be considered in the next few weeks in Parliament, so we are awaiting information ourselves about the latest developments. So we know that there is a debate right now between the trade unions who are probably opposed to the law and those who have proposed the law, and so we are following the debate. But we hope that the debate will lead to a good outcome, whereby there will be consensus that this is the needed reform and that it can proceed. But for now, I cannot tell you specifics.
When you speak about the position, in your estimate, is the reform question of economics, but also question of demographics in Serbia? How do you see this? Is this inevitable trend in the developed world to reform pension system? In Serbia, this is amplified more than in these countries. Do you see any alternative, reasonable alternative to the reform of a pension system in Serbia?
No, I do not see any alternative. I think it's a demographic issue and it's also an economic issue. Demographically, we know that this is an issue. This is almost a certainty. It's a certainty that people live longer. And in order to address the problem, you either spend more on pensions or you have incentives in your system so that people work longer and retire later. So the economic part of the equation comes when you actually try to design a system that will actually make people work more in a friendly way, so that they will want this instead of this being some sort of a compulsory necessarily system. So it's very important to design the system that will help people contribute more, so that the balance of the pension system is not negative. Right now, the deficit in the pension fund, if you calculate it correctly, in Serbia is almost 6% of GDP. It's one of the largest I ever saw in the whole world. That's an enormous amount of money, almost 200 billion dinars, that is needed to kind of pay additionally to the pension fund beyond contributions from general taxes to support the pension system. So this is a problem, and you resolve this problem either by raising the contributions, which are already quite high, and if you raise the contributions, that you create disincentives to work. You know that if people do not like paying contributions, especially if they are the ones who are not going to receive the pensions. So it's very important to have a comprehensive reform of the pension system that includes less spending and to do it in a more transparent way.
One part of this equation is lessening the total of employed person in Serbia, especially because of lack of greenfield foreign investment in Serbia and opening new jobs here. We have serious troubles with several industries that are trying to go in this market through various obstructions and untransparent investment climate. Any pension system requires working people that are required to have some base for financing this. How do you see the importance of opening Serbia's market to the investments and simplifying investment procedures and make them transparent, especially to old system viable and sustainable?
No, I think that is key. I think one way through which you design incentives is support economic growth. And in this respect, business-friendly climate is very important. Take foreign direct investment. It is one of the more productive investment types. It brings technology, it brings good human capital, it brings best practices. So when the businesses emerge as a result of foreign direct investment, they're very productive. That means that they will be able to pay high wages, and that means that from high wages you have better contributions from people who want to work on viable projects that will contribute more to the system. I think you are right, you hit the point in terms of that this is one of the big bottlenecks for economic growth, and bottleneck for economic growth is a bottleneck for the pension system as well.
We spoke with the Ambassador of Portugal about the interest of developing some underdeveloped sports infrastructure here. We have also hundreds of these facilities throughout Serbia. And on the one side, we have 30 million euros of building or renovating stadiums by state instead of preparing investment climate for the private investor that can make also stadiums with shopping malls, with other things, and so on. How do you see possibilities of this industry, but other possibilities that can, even in crisis, we see now investors that are interested, that could upgrade the capacity of Serbia's economy and substantially after that a pension system?
Well, I have to say that I'm not an expert on particularly on sport infrastructure facilities, but what I want to say is that it's very important to have a level playing field for investment climate. And in some sectors, I'm not speaking about this particular sector, the presence of the government or the state is too much, is too high, and it crowds out a private sector involvement, it crowds out private sector initiative, it crowds out the entrepreneurial drive of people that want to make things happen. And I would imagine that in this area in particular, there will be a lot of people that are very enthusiastic about sports and that could actually facilitate some initiatives. So what is very important for the government is not so much to provide subsidies from the budget, because that creates a mentality that you wait for some donation, whatever. What you need the government to say, declare very transparently that this is our policy. We do not inhibit initiative. We will not overly tax you. We also will provide a little bit of support through, for example, infrastructure projects, better roads, and that are clearly in the, that some of those need to be done, but do not, but make the playing field level, meaning do not play favoritism, do not favor one type of investor over the other type of investor, that if there are public sector initiatives, they can compete with private sector initiatives. That's the general principle that usually has worked well around the world in a lot of sectors.
Role of private insurance sector in Serbia is very important, but very undeveloped. We see years of some measures that are insufficient to do that this sector do serious impact on pension system. How do you see importance of incentives aimed